Hello! The Popcorn Junkies is reviewing Stan and Ollie. I presume they've gone and named it Stan and Ollie to distinguish them from Laurel and Hardy, because that's how we know them.
We like to think of them as Laurel and Hardy. I question that, making it Stan and Ollie.
Yeah, but I think that...
Why fix something that ain't broke?
But I quite like that. I quite like the decision to call it Stan and Ollie, because it immediately is inviting you to view them differently. We feel we know them, we feel this... And this is, in a weird way, the title, I feel, achieves something that the film doesn't achieve. But before we go to that, Stan and Ollie is a biographical comedy drama about the lives of, well, the careers of Laurel and Hardy. It very much picks the story, although we start towards the end of their success story in Hollywood. We're at the twilight where they're beginning to have to negotiate contracts. We get a sense that they're not earning that much money.
Even though they were
megastars.
I didn't realise how huge they were.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a massive part of my childhood.
Yeah.
Because I used to just love watching my dad laugh and laugh and laugh.
Well, your dad was a huge fan, wasn't he? He is a
massive
huge
fan.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching them a great deal at my grandfather's knee. You know, they used to be on the telly just after like Flash Gordon and things like that. And they used to really make me laugh. I mean, they were very funny. That slapstick is and they were quite nuanced. It was quite nuanced slapstick.
Yeah, because it wasn't just constant smashing and they smashed it. It was those looks between. It was the moments where nothing happened, where the real genius was.
Yeah, and
waiting.
Absolutely.
They could hold a comedy pause like nobody else would dare.
Yeah, and when I go back to those silent cinema greats, I always used to like Harold Lloyd, who was the one who used to hang from the clocks. He used to do quite extreme stunts where he'd hang across streets and what have you. Yeah, Harold Lloyd. But Charlie Chaplin. Yeah. See, Charlie Chaplin never did it for me.
Never did it for me.
No, it was a stupid walk. Whereas these guys had a real, it was almost alternative before alternative existed.
Well, they had a telepathy as well, didn't they?
We've got two big stars in this film. We've got Steve Coogan playing Stan Laurel, and we've got John C. Reilly, who we know from many Will Ferrell films, playing Oliver Hardy. And in terms of casting, I mean, I think there's a lot of excitement that potentially John C. Reilly could be nominated for an Oscar. I know he was nominated for a Golden Globe. And I know, you know, when famous people are playing famous people, it's not just about how much they look like them, but these two really look like them.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because everyone always says, it doesn't really matter, you know, it's not an impersonation, it doesn't really matter. But actually, it always matters.
It does really.
When somebody plays somebody that is famous and that we hold dear to our hearts, it always matters if they don't look like them. And they look so like them.
It's very impressive when an actor like Steve Coogan, who we all know very well to look at, and then when he's impersonating, or, you know, he's in the part of Stan Laurel, you sort of think, why did I never see this before?
I know. Well,
he's
because
so
he inhabited
like
him, that's why. So it came from the inside out.
As we say, they were at the end of their massively successful career in Hollywood, and we
went immediately into a very sad situation. I found it very sad. Right at the beginning, when they showed us where they were in their career, and how much they were struggling. I was shocked.
I see what you mean.
Within the first few minutes of the film, I was like, "Hey,
that's a good point. Actually, there was no time afforded to just relishing what they had been.
We were straight into the misery.
Straight into the misery. It was a very long. I like the opening shot. It was a very long cinematic shot following them through lots of different sets, sound stages, backstage, and what have you. I love all that stuff. I love all the kind
really nicely shot.
Yeah, it was really nicely shot. Beautiful set. In fact, the cinematography throughout it was very impressive. I mean, I thought they managed to replicate the quite static feel of the silent cinema that they were in. And they managed to use that to sort of show them in this other setting. I mean, which was clever. But that, for me, was one of the good things about the film, but also one of the drawbacks thematically for me. And I think me and you, we were enjoying it, weren't we? And then we got to a point where suddenly something wasn't quite gelling.
You hit on it. You said there's not enough dialogue. There were statements of fact.
Yeah, well, there was no sort
of... And I wonder, I mean, if people that would know of them would say, well, that is what they were like. I wonder if that is actually what they were like.
It felt like it didn't feel like you were ever getting any authentic dialogue that you wouldn't have heard them proclaim. It was very proclamatory. It was very much,
and I can't think with two such quality actors that they wouldn't have questioned that in the script.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I was thinking about it I was thinking about it this morning because we saw it last night. I was thinking, I I wonder if that was just very true to life.
Maybe.
And they were almost... But there was this oddness to them, and it was of the times. And they were incredibly polite, the two of them. I mean, they suffered terrible rudeness from people. I mean, it was a tale of abject misery, I think, for me.
Well,
I wasn't what I was expecting at all.
So it went through all of the kind of
I mean, I was a bit surprised to be flung into Eastbourne.
Well, it was when they were checking into hotels in sort of seaside towns, B&Bs and stuff like that, and you think, my God, did this happen? So you're right.
So it is a fascinating story.
It is a fascinating story. It's a fascinating chapter in their lives, and I suppose if the film is about something other than just Laurel and Hardy, it's about the twilight of fame, isn't it? It's how you manage and deal with and cope with.
I mean, there's a problem with it, and I think you said the right thing. We weren't allowed to relish to begin with how massive they were. It was very tiny, and so if you were coming to this film and you hadn't, like us, had a real knowledge of Laurel and Hardy, we needed to know a bit more about Laurel and Hardy being the big movie stars before we were in Broadstairs or wherever.
Absolutely. I thought that it relied inordinately on a lot of them translating their film work onto the stage, which I quite liked at first.
Well, you know, if they did that, that's a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Very difficult.
No, that was difficult. But in terms of the film, it was a motif that ran all the way through. It was like
we basically saw. We recognised the sketches. Didn't we?
I
saw that.
Kept saying, yeah.
My mum loved that. Oh, my granddad loved that. So they were all very familiar for us.
Yeah.
And I thought they did them well. They did do them well, but I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't deliver for me.
I really wanted to like it a lot more than I did, and the thing is, I didn't dislike it, but there was something in it that was holding me back.
Yeah, no, I was enjoying it, and then suddenly I just felt.
I could feel you fidgeting. I could feel you. You were.
It was leaden.
Yes.
I don't know if that can be a directorial thing, but for me it felt heavy.
Well, I tell you what,
it felt weighed down. There was something wrong with the pace of it. There was something wrong with the edit. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
I tell you what, almost it felt like. It felt almost like the filmmakers almost believed that Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly were actually Laurel and Hardy, and that they were trying to treat them so deferentially that everything felt a bit standoffish, far away from them emotionally.
It was like a film that they would have been in.
Yeah.
It's like, did we really see Stan and Ollie, or did we just see Laurel and Hardy? So
yes.
It was like Laurel.
Well, that's my point about the title. The title suggests you're going to go behind the characters, but I didn't feel we ever got behind the characters.
I mean, we did a bit. Of course, we did, because we saw the depression and we saw the gambling and the. But for me, it was just
massively,
they were just such. It was such broad brushstrokes, wasn't it? Oh, the best line in the film. I'm never going to get married again. I'm just going to buy a woman I hate a house.
I'm going to find a woman I hate and buy her a house.
Find a woman I hate and buy her a house. Yeah, I mean, we just touched on it. I wanted to get to know them a bit more. Or did I? Actually, that was the other question.
Maybe
did I? I thought maybe I just wanted to know them as Laurel and Hardy and have that.
Maybe some biographies are best left untold.
Yeah.
They laid that detail of Oliver Hardy having worked with someone else in Hollywood, and you felt Stan Laurel being sort of left outside of that. And then Stan Laurel has sort of manufactured this idea that they've got a film deal that could be happening, and that's why they're doing this tour in Britain to sort of reach the film deal. I never quite understood that. I didn't quite understand why the film deal was necessitated a tour. I didn't get that bit. I couldn't quite connect the two. But you had this idea that Stan Laurel was basically lying, and you've got Oliver Hardy, who's kind of, done his thing. I just didn't really buy into the gripe that Stan Laurel would have had with Oliver Hardy, about the fact that he'd done that.
Well, he did, because he wanted him to stand by him. He wanted to set up he was hugely ambitious, and that's a very frustrating thing. Isn't it?
Right, yeah.
If you have any kind of couple, and one is very ambitious and driven, he would spend day and night writing. He knew he was being ripped off by the studio, and I don't think for a minute he thought that Oliver was going to just stay. But Oliver had too much on his plate. He had the womanising, he had the gambling, and he couldn't leave the money. So I mean, as we're talking about it seems like we actually learned a lot about them, but it lacked drama.
Well, it did lack drama.
It lacked drama.
But also, I found them both too intensely likeable. It was almost like it was too
so likeable.
It was too diplomatic in every scene.
Yeah,
so even Stan Laurel, when he had a gripe or was jealous professionally, it was polite. Everything was polite. So you never got any genuine jeopardy.
The time.
Maybe. But for a modern day picture,
you have to dramatise.
Yeah.
You know, that is the thing. The more I talk about this, the more I'm now convinced that what we got was a story very much of the time, and the way that people dealt with each other, and the way that people would very much keep their feelings and their things to themselves. And maybe that was what we felt was stilted. There was a stiltedness, if there's a word, to the dialogue. But if you think about it, that's how they talked anyway, didn't they, in the movies those days? Or maybe that's how, oh, there's a beautiful girl for you. You know, and maybe that's what they were kind of giving us.
Maybe, but
it didn't work for me.
Didn't work, and unfortunately
whatever
that doesn't work for me.
Whatever it was they were trying to do.
I didn't feel like I went
work.
behind either of the men. I didn't feel like I got beneath their skin. I didn't feel like there was a skin to get beneath, to be honest. I thought it looked very nice. I thought the period detail was beautifully drawn. I thought there was some nice support from the two wives who need a shout out. It was our favourite.
They were great. And the agent.
Well, Shirley Henderson played Lucille Hardy, and Nina Arianda played Stan Laurel's wife. But the agent was Rufus Jones.
He was fantastic. He was very, very good.
He was very good.
Layered.
He was very funny. He was very layered, and he brought something great. And John C. Reilly was great. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about him being nominated, and you know the fat suit looked remarkable.
Was he great?
I don't know if he was great.
I think he turned in a good job.
Yeah.
But I didn't think he was great. I think that will come from people's affection for Oliver Hardy, and our affection for him actually as an actor, because we love him, we love Will Ferrell and all of that. But if we really drill into it, was he great?
Not entirely certain. They had a couple of moments where I kind of got frustrated, where I thought, that's where the heart of your film is. That sort of stuff is where the heart of your film is. So that when they actually had the argument that they had at the party towards the end, ended, and I know what they were going for. Well, they needed dramatisation, but it played out like a scene from one of their films. Now, it meant to, because everyone at the party applauded, thinking, that woman said, was that funny?
Yeah.
But I think you needed a few moments off stage.
There was an awkwardness between them.
Yeah.
That, again, I think if people that know them would say, oh, it's brilliantly played, because there was that awkwardness.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work.
No.
In a movie.
No.
Because you just, as the audience, you just feel a bit awkward.
The one thing I did think was, it's the kind of film my nan would love.
Yeah.
My nan would love it. I'm sure maybe your dad would like it too. It's very of its time. It's evocative. It does allow you to indulge in the craft of Laurel and Hardy. We were both sort of going, oh, I remember that sketch. Oh, I remember that sketch. But those little nostalgic moments aside, I really was frustrated by a lack of I wanted it to get just a bit gritty and a bit more real emotion. I wanted a bit more emotion, drama.
It's like everyone was on Valium.
It was a bit. It was like, but even the editing, it was a bit slow.
Valium.
It was slow.
It just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
Well, and what's your score?
My score, I think, is 4 out of 10.
Okay. I tell you what, I was really surprised by. The director of this movie is the director of Filth, which is the film with James McAvoy that I absolutely loved. John S. Baird. So, and when I saw that afterwards, the reason I was sort of shocked was, the one thing you couldn't say about Filth was that the pacing was off. It was in your face. It was crisp, it was sharp, it was whoa. Now, you can't adopt the same approach, obviously, to such a sort of different sort of subject matter. My problem with the film is this. I think the filmmakers, in general, became obsessed or were slightly trapped in the idea that they were stars of the silent cinema. And so the danger with that, there was a film a few years ago called The Artist, which won the Oscar, and it was a modern day silent film. The danger with that is that necessarily, if you've got a reverential approach to it and you're almost trying to emulate that sort of organised, slightly slowly edited silent cinema era, the whole thing becomes very slow and measured and signposted and unemotional and quite formulaic.
That's the problem,
and I think the film was very formulaic, and it was almost like you could see the scenes as they would have read off the page. They'd have all made logical sense. They'd have all run in order. But what they needed to park at least 3 or 4 scenes which served almost no narrative purpose, but just to characterise, just to give us some of the meat and the sort of visceral stuff that was going on both of these guys. A bit of gravy. So I have to admit, I was a bit disappointed. I thought there was a couple of moments where Steve Coogan impressed me. You're right. I mean, to be honest with you, I was really microscopically examining John C. Reilly's performance, because I am a fan of his. I think it's a stretch to suggest he's worthy of an Oscar, really, I do. It's a very convincing fat suit, that's for sure, and they both did great imitations of them both. But as a film, I was left very unengaged, and this is a terrible giveaway, is the fact that it was 97 minutes long, which is short, and I felt it was long. I'd probably go with you. I'd give this a 4 out of 10. It's another fine mess you got me into.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.